Hello again and welcome back. After I had posted my first video in this series calling out Frank Turek and CrossExamined for recent comments made at a recent ministry event, I came across an interesting article in the Christian Post titled, quote, "Apologist Frank Turek rejects claim dispensationalism is heresy, says end times remain veiled," end quote. Now it prompted me to view the short video again, which in turn nudged me to create today's video. By way of reviewing my previous comments, I'll quote from the article, quote, "Because theologians almost universally agree when it comes to eschatology, the only true heresy is preterism," said Turek, who defined preterism as the belief that everything that happened in the Bible, including the book of Revelation, has already happened, that Jesus had already come and set up his kingdom. "It's quite obvious he hasn't, okay?" Turek said. "But every other eschatological viewpoint is not a heresy." He continues, "People who are Bible believers and scholars will argue over, is it dispensationalism? Is it historic dispensationalism? Is it preterism, partial preterism? Is it postmillennialism, amillennialism? All these different viewpoints. Is there a rapture? Is there not a rapture?" Turek said Christians can debate the finer points of eschatology in good faith without losing the gospel, and exhorted them to be careful in defining their terms. Now, here is the point Frank made toward the end of the video that I will examine today. Quote, "Turek suggested that just as there were many aspects of Christ's first advent and its related prophecies that remained unclear until they happened, his second advent is also largely shrouded in mystery." Quote, "Look, I think God, just like he kept his first coming veiled, he's keeping his second coming veiled," he said, end quote. His comment is symptomatic of the current dilemma within the church. After just declaring that there is debate and argument over which of the several eschatological viewpoints is true, he seemingly uses his conviction that God, in keeping Jesus' first coming veiled, is doing the same concerning his second coming. There's no analysis given, just a broad opinion that undoubtedly leads many to abandon any effort to find the truth of what is the main theme of the New Testament, his coming. Now, I'm going to take at least 2 videos to challenge Frank's opinion, discussing first the veiling of Jesus' first coming in the Old Testament, followed by the supposed veiling of his second coming in the one to follow. Now, the claim that God kept the news about Jesus' first coming veiled before his arrival can be refuted by pointing to the extensive prophetic tradition within the Old Testament. Far from being veiled, the coming of the Messiah was a central theme detailed through numerous prophecies that outlined his lineage, his birthplace, his nature, his mission, his suffering, and even aspects of his death. Now let's look at some of the extensive Old Testament prophecies. The Hebrew Scriptures contain hundreds of prophecies concerning the Messiah. While not always understood in their full detail before Christ's arrival, they clearly pointed to a future deliverer. Now, this demonstrates foresight and deliberate communication, not veiling. Concerning Jesus' lineage, it can be understood that Christ came from Judah, Genesis 49:10, and from David's line, 2 Samuel 7:12-16. His birthplace is foretold in Micah 5:2, explicitly stating that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, and this was known to Herod's scribes, Matthew 2:4-6. Isaiah 7:14 predicts a virgin birth. The virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Some of his defining attributes revealed in Isaiah 9:6-7, which describe him as Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Zechariah 9:9 speaks of him as a righteous king, humble and riding on a donkey. Of his mission and passion, Isaiah 53 provides a profoundly detailed description of the suffering servant who would bear the sins of many, be despised and rejected, suffer silently, and be led like a lamb to slaughter, a clear foreshadowing of Jesus' atonement. Psalm 22 also vividly describes elements of his crucifixion. Zechariah 11:12-13 mentions the betrayal for 30 pieces of silver. Now, concerning the time of his arrival, Daniel 9:24-27 provides a timeline of 70 weeks of years that can be interpreted as predicting Messiah's appearance and death. Later in Luke 19:42-44, Jesus pronounces the consequences of their not recognizing him as Messiah sent to them, saying, "If you had known, even you, especially in this your day, the things that make for your peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes. For days will come upon you when your enemies will build an embankment around you, surround you and close you in on every side, and level you and your children within you to the ground. And they will not leave in you one stone upon another, because you did not know the time of your visitation. They had every opportunity to understand the timing of his arrival, but it was only after they refused to accept the timing that it became hidden from their eyes. Now, there certainly existed hopeful expectation of the coming one among some of the Jews. The existence of these prophecies meant that some Jews were actively looking for the Messiah at the time of Jesus' birth and ministry. Example, the Magi, following a star understood to signify the birth of the King of the Jews, indicated an expectation of his coming. People like Simeon and Anna in Luke 2 were, quote, awaiting the consolation of Israel and the redemption of Jerusalem, respectively, demonstrating a deep-seated hope and understanding derived from the prophecies. Anna especially, Luke intentionally includes in his account that she was from the tribe of Asher, one of the 10 northern tribes that was divorced by Yahweh and exiled to Assyria. You can check that out in Jeremiah 3. When John the Baptist appeared, people questioned if he was the Messiah. John 1:19-20. That showed a public awareness and expectation of his arrival. Jesus himself often pointed to the Old Testament scriptures as foretelling his life, death, and resurrection. In Luke 24:27, to the disciples on the road to Emmaus, hear what Jesus spoke to them. Quote, then he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? It was because they were foolish and not fully trusting that they couldn't discern. But then Jesus helped them, continuing, and beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Now, here's one last scripture reference that demonstrates the point of today's message well. John 6:44-45, quote, no one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by God. Therefore, everyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me. Now, how would they have learned from the Father? Well, from the sufficiency of the understandable truth concerning Jesus the Messiah in the Old Covenant Scriptures. Now, a distinction must be made between veiled and prophesied. The concept of veiled implies secrecy or obscurity. While the full meaning or method of fulfillment of some prophecies might not have been perfectly clear to everyone before the event, the prophecies themselves were publicly available in the scriptures and discussed by scholars and devout Jews. They served as news or forewarnings, not a secret. Now granted, the clarity of prophecy often increases after its fulfillment. So, in conclusion, the Old Testament is rich with prophetic news about Jesus' first coming. To claim it was veiled ignores the direct and extensive nature of these foretellings, which clearly indicated God's plan for the Messiah long before his earthly arrival. Now, in Part 4, I'll refute Frank's ill-thought claim that the Father is also veiling Jesus' second coming, so please tune in. Now, I'm exceedingly grateful to you, my subscribers, especially those who came on board after the posting of this series. So please post, comments, and share. And for now, I'm out.